Thank you, Manaz, for those very kind words. It is a genuine pleasure to be back again once more with WLP. You have marked 10 years and you've brought a wonderful array of people here for this particular important topic. And it's both a challenge and a pleasure to follow Thoraya, partly because I was in the UN as High Commissioner when she became Executive Director of UNFPA. And she did exactly what she said. She put culture there front and center. And I was very supportive because I had been using words like human rights must be embedded in the culture, etc. And now I think what I try more and more to do is to capture the approach that Thoraya set out so well by framing it in the context of Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because I think the human rights community has not availed of the full potential of the first sentence of Article 1, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And it's that dignity, it's that sense of identity, it's that sense of culture, and it doesn't mean that it's homogenous, as Thoraya said. There's great differences and distinctions, but it's within a broader culture, and human rights have to be embedded and come out of that culture. I remember very well being in Kabul on the first celebration of International Women's Day after the end of the Taliban regime. And women had gone into a cinema in Kabul and cleared the rubble because the cinema had been closed by the Taliban and partly destroyed. And they cleared about 15 feet of rubble. There was no roof, so the UN put in tent roofing. And we sat with the women, UNIFEM were there and some others, we sat with about 90 women, Afghan women, who were drawing up a kind of charter of their rights. They began each meeting with a prayer. It was very much from within their sense of how they wanted to advance again, how important education for girls would be, etc. And then we came in on the 8th of March. I remember it so well. And of course, as a High Commissioner for Human Rights and the head of UNIFEM and the two women who were in the cabinet of Chairman Karzai, as he was at the time, we were on the podium all right. And we looked down about 14 or 15 rows of men. And beyond those men were these women with their charter for women's rights. And, but there were a lot of lessons in the way they approached the opportunity to write a charter of the rights that really mattered to them. I mentioned the 10th anniversary of WLP, and anniversaries are important. This year, we mark the 10th anniversary of an important Security Council resolution, Security Council Resolution 1325, that many of you will be very familiar with, and indeed I know that WLP do training on it. It's very much an issue for women on the ground in situations of conflict or post-conflict, and it is a resolution that was important in its time, but was weak in the enforcement and measures for monitoring and evaluating, and so it hasn't reached its full potential, despite the number of plans of action now for 1325. A number of us were in Liberia this time last year at the wonderful international symposium that Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf and President Tarja Halonen of Finland co-hosted. And to my astonishment, not only was 1325 a huge way of bringing about an excitement of the role of women, especially in all the security and other services in Liberia, but also they had managed to create a song about 1325. I can't sing anyway, but I wouldn't be able to render justice to it. But a number of us, and I'm sure many of you here in the room, were concerned that we mustn't mark this anniversary by rhetoric. We must try and be more effective, try and make it a real instrument of women participating at all levels, that the UN appoint more women as special representatives to the Secretary General, to high posts. There's a new women's agency now, and so on. But also in the UN peacekeeping, in regional organizations, and at national level, that women are in the police, in the military, in all decision-making that particularly is significant in situations of conflict. And a few months ago, there was a kind of co-convening between Swanee Hunt and myself and our colleagues to bring together a number of people thinking about this. And Deputy Secretary General Asher Rose McGeera kindly came along and spoke. And we kind of encouraged her, or some might say maneuvered her, into agreeing that there should be a high-level steering committee within the United Nations to plan for the 10th anniversary. And I'm really pleased that that high-level steering committee has been created. Thoraya is a member of it. And within the UN system, therefore, there's an opportunity to move forward and to gather in all the evidence from the ground that the UN is capable of gathering in, and the thinking that has been part of a kind of discussion internally within the UN system over a number of years. How do we now address the strengthening of 1325 and the strengthening of commitments of governments under 1325